if you look at like Greg Doucette's cookbook, again, $100+ for a cookbook sounds kind of crazy. It's overhyped. I myself feel like the meals are very basic. What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about the idea of scams, scam artists, and even just influencers, people who aren't necessarily scamming us, people who are delivering things that maybe it's not quite as good as they say, but it's fine. That whole territory, because I think a lot of people, especially if you're newer to this industry, can be very easily influenced by what they see. So I think back to when I was just getting into this, 11, 12 years old, and I just really wanted abs. And I would watch these infomercials. And I remember seeing this ab device that was just this cheap plastic with a little band inside, and you would just kind of crunch down.
Hey everyone, it's Jeff down here at the Bargain Deals and Closeouts Warehouse. And boy, do we have a new product for you. It's the new Cross Crunch Ab Machine. Are you looking for those flat abs this summer? This is the product to get. All you do is just sit down and you just crunch.
And do that. And I mean, I really believed that 30 days I was going to see this transformation. I mean, it sounds so absurd now, of course, but at the time it really did seem like, well, these people are looking this way. Now, I think most people who are watching this channel obviously understand that that's ridiculous, but that's kind of like that first level of it. But then you get involved and you start to see more and more. And I think all of us who have been lifting even more than 5 years can think back to when they really thought, X thing was going to happen, and then Y years later, it just didn't happen. I mean, a quote that I make fun of my brother for was when we were like kids, and I remember him saying, well, I'm just going to do 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups every day until there's no stopping me. And I would always just kind of rag on him for that line now, because but at the time it just sounded like, well, this is enough. And most people don't really understand how much effort it takes over a consistent period of time in order to really achieve results. And this is why people will see somebody with a good physique and they tend to think, if they're kind of a couch potato, they'll think, well, I could do that if I just tried, if I could, they don't think about the genetics involved. They don't think about the amount of time and effort and money potentially involved. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I think of some of these people who are selling routines. So for example, my sister recently wanted to try to get in better shape, and she has somebody she follows online who has her perfect body and she really looks up to, and I think she actually might have met her a few times. And so this person sold her a program, and it wasn't crazy expensive, but it was like $50 to $100, and it had her doing sessions every single day. I think there were even some double sessions, 6 or 7 days a week, to somebody who, it was just a blanket routine, somebody who had never done anything before as far as like really being physically active or working out at all. I mean, she really has almost no background of that, not even really much of a sports background. And yet this person just sold her, hey, here's this routine to do. There's no acclimating to anything. So there's really, you just like go right into it. And there's going to be a select few people who can do that, who can just take it and run with it. Whether it's that they have the mentality or they have just like the physical perseverance to be able to do that. Very few people are going to be able to do that though. And even if I look at myself, I say, well, I was training super intensely by the time I was 14 years old, which is true. But the reality is I actually started losing weight when I was 10. And then I started incorporating some home workouts. And then I started doing more and more. So even then, it was a couple year experience to get back to that point or to get up to that point. And I also played sports all of my life. So it wasn't like I was just doing nothing and then I went into that. So there are some people who, I don't know if I'll post specific links below, but maybe. But there are certainly some people who will sell these routines, and it's not even just routines. I mean, we see that as well. I think some of them could be fine. I mean, somebody like John Meadows has routines that he sells, and I think most of us would agree that John is one of the good guys in the industry. But he says in there, here are some routines for beginners. Here are some routines for intermediates. Here are some routines for really advanced lifters. And by that point, you're not just jumping into it. You kind of have an idea. He also has tons and tons of free content out there to understand where to go with this stuff. But these people who just sell routines, and you see it not even just in fitness, right? You see people who, hey, cryptocurrency, here's my course on how to, do whatever I've done. Obviously, a lot of nonsense. Side tangent, anybody who is involved in cryptocurrency, it's hilarious when I go back and look at like old threads, because I have bought and sold some cryptocurrency, and to see people who like all these predictions, this is going to happen, this, and like just across the board just wrong. Like nobody has any idea. I mean, there's maybe some people who have done it a little bit better than chance, but it's very interesting to go back and look at that. So anyway, but you do see this, that there's somebody who is all about Instagram growth and YouTube growth, and again sells these these products. Mike Israetel posted this post from Instagram, and the video was titled, like, by somebody else, how to get 1 million followers. And the guy had, I don't know, 100 followers, and the video got like 15 views. And it's just like, but you see that, and I understand the concept of faking it until you make it, but just because somebody has, they can show that they've had growth in one area, they've had results, doesn't mean that you should buy something from them. That's one of the great things about this evidence-based industry that has kind of been created in the last 10 or 15 years maybe, that people are putting more weight on evidence. And I mean, that's even for me, it's a niche that I can fall into myself, where I look at like pro bodybuilders, and obviously me being 200 pounds among pro bodybuilders is going to look like nothing, right? And so there's no weight there. And I think a lot of people who like this channel and watch this channel can relate to wanting evidence behind something, and not just saying, well, you look a certain way and therefore you should buy this product. So in regards to like the kind of like scammy things, and like I said, it doesn't have to be a full-on scam. I mean, if I think of Greg Doucette's cookbook, right? I made a video about his cookbook. I don't think Greg Doucette is a scam artist. I think that he's largely infotainment. A decent amount of what he says is accurate. There are certainly some things he says that are exaggerated or are not accurate. But if I brought up that cookbook, is that a scam? No, I wouldn't say it's a scam. It's overpriced, but there are a select few people who, for whatever reason, it was what gave them the impetus to start eating correctly and being more motivated. If you look at the one video I have on John Jaquish and his X3 bands, that one I would say more in the realm of scammy. But really, what is a scam? If you're considering a scam as something that just does not work at all, hey, I'm going to sell you this product, you're going to make $1 million, you made $0, and you did everything that I said, that's a scam maybe. But for something like X3 where it's promising results, I'd say it's a scam in the sense that it's really overhyping what it can do, but you absolutely can get results with a product like that. And it also talks about diet. A lot of the transformations seen are based on the fact that people change their diet. So it's not fully a scam in the sense that it doesn't work, but it's probably overhyped and overpriced. And again, if you look at like Greg Doucette's cookbook, again, $100+ for a cookbook sounds kind of crazy. It's overhyped. I myself feel like the meals are very basic. Years ago with John Berardi and some of these other guys, they were putting out these really good recipes with healthy meals. I think it's not too hard to find low-calorie versions of meals that you might enjoy, whether it's ice cream, pizza, sandwiches, whatever. There's a lot of ways to do it, but if you want to buy a product like that, that's fine. But I think you do have to really be on guard, and this is kind of what the video is about, is those kind of in-between products where it's not for me to say don't buy it or do buy it, but be aware of like what you're looking at. So I will there's a website, so most people have heard me mention T Nation. I'm not going to specifically call them out and say in the sense that like they were lying about anything, but more that a lot of their products were super overhyped, and they would go by category of like level 1 through 5 buyers and things like that. And I'd look, and some people were spending tens of thousands of dollars on these supplements, and they would get behind them, and like one was called a Flame Out. And it was like, this will really help with insulin sensitivity and fat loss. And I mean, really making it seem like it's going to be a game changer. It's fish oil. Yeah, would I recommend taking fish oil? Yeah, I do. I take a significant amount every day. I take about 3 to 4 grams. Total EPA and DHA is about 2 grams. It's a more concentrated version that I take. There's a few different good brands out there, and I do think that it's beneficial. But is it this magic game changer? No. Hopefully, most people watching this know to watch out for the supplements that really that people overhype and oversell. But it's still, it's interesting to look at like the general population versus maybe people watching this type of video, because I think most of us know Lane Norton. I've had him on the podcast a few times. It's funny because when people hear I have a fitness podcast, and I'll say, oh, okay, I've had some guests on with some good followings, and I'll think of somebody who they might know. I'll say, oh, do you know Lane Norton? And I'll say, oh, no. And I'll say, do you know 3DMJ? No. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't know these people? And some of them have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, and I'm really surprised that they don't know them. But to the average person, who they know are these Instagram influencers with millions of followers, maybe like a Bradley Martin or a Steve Cook. And these are people who oftentimes will sell products, and I don't want to call them gimmicky, but some of them to some degree are. So going back to T Nation, if you look at some of their products, there was I've talked before about how they hyped up this program, iBodybuilder. After all this hype and selling all this stuff, it went nowhere. I think there was another product called Indigo something, Indigo 3. And again, just a product that does not live up to the hype. So when I put this stuff out there, it's not meant to attack a specific individual. Obviously, I've named some individuals there, but it's more just the general concept that I think a lot of things can work. Obviously, we've talked about the importance of consistency over optimality. Some of these things, I might even say, hey, if you want everything to be ideal, well then, hey, find recipes that are going to work for you so you don't have to grind through maybe eating foods that you don't like. Or I might say, hey, buy these supplements, maybe not from those sources, but I'd say buy those same type of supplements because that's going to give you that little edge. I'm really speaking to a lot of the beginner intermediates here who are still in that kind of territory of looking for either a routine or a product. I also would add that I think there's something fun to that phase, right? So I'm really not trying to talk down on it. That was a really fun time of my life when it was like this new routine that could really be it. Somebody else I'll bring up is Kino Body. Hey man, I mean, that guy's got a really good physique. He's got very impressive levels of strength, especially relative to his size. I have not really gone and done a breakdown of his actual supplements, but I would imagine that he's got the kind of known effective products in there. I'd be surprised if there wasn't caffeine, creatine, maybe citrulline, things like that are fine. And hey, if you're going to spend maybe 20, 30% more on his product than you could if you bought it from maybe bulk supplements on Amazon, which is what I use, then is that the end of the world? No. I could say the same thing about like Lane Norton used to sell BCAAs as Extend. I mean, they tasted pretty good. I'm sure they didn't hurt anything. Maybe, again, expensive for what you're getting. But I certainly wouldn't call Lane a scam artist or a con artist or anything like that. I really wouldn't call Kino Body's stuff a scam either. I know he sells some of these routines out there, and maybe that's where it starts to get into the territory of not specific enough to an individual. But again, I mean, we know the principles that work, right? We know the general principles, and most of those guys, I do think, focus on the principles here. So I kind of want to hear from you guys, like if there's any scam that you fell for, whether it was a full-on scam, like this was clearly the person was lying, it was not what they promised at all, or just something where you were kind of misled. And I think, not to call out the entire industry, but I think a large part of fitness in general, it falls into that kind of middle ground of even the people who give really great advice. And some, there's nothing scammy at all. There's nothing even overhyped at all. All right, looks like the light went out, so I'm going to finish up with this. But, that's one of the reasons why I like a lot of the evidence-based crowd, because they really say, look, even if we have this that we're selling, like this is really what you need, and that's it. And I can really appreciate that. But I think in general, when you have an entire industry and your entire job is based on getting people to buy things from you, you have to hype it up to some degree. And I don't even hate on that. It's more just I put stuff like this out so that people understand that if you're doing it because it's fun, if you're doing it because you're just enjoying the experience and this makes it a little bit more fun for you, buy the routines, buy the supplements. I think that's all great. But when you start seeing things like that promise these type of results that are clearly unrealistic, when they're selling, like buy this type of program for even if you're an influencer yourself or you want to be an influencer and it's telling you you're going to see massive growth like this, just be careful of that. Just kind of want to share some of my personal stories, some of what I've seen, and if you guys have any of your own, share them down below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more like this, and I will see you guys next time.